Okay, call this city council public hearing to order, acting as both the governing body and urban renewal agency. Going to turn it over to our city planner, Jacob Greichen.
Thank you, Mayor. And I am here because our city administrator is not in the office this week. So it's probably no secret what this public hearing is about, given the room, but of course we should always talk about why we're here. And this is to receive comment on the proposed sale of city-owned property on what was known as the Boise White Paper site. I think the council likes to call that the St. Helens Industrial Park. But basically 1300 and 1400 Castor Road for location specifics. This is both a city council and St. Helens Urban Renewal Agency meeting. So keep that in mind. That's how it was advertised. And Keith, I'm assuming you want to recuse yourself?
I'm going to recuse myself for this hearing and also for deliberations. So
okay.
Have fun.
Thank you. So the purpose of this meeting, one, is to comply with state law. In order to sell city property, we're supposed to have a public meeting, take testimony on the matter, as well as disclose some of the general terms of the sale. So it's a way to make sure your government entities are doing the right thing. And so a brief history, most of you probably know this, but I don't want to make too many assumptions. Back in 2015, the city purchased the industrial property that the paper mill was on. We acquired a lot of it. The mill property was about 204 acres. In June of 2017, the council ratified a ground lease option with ACSP. That is the entity that wishes to purchase this property. And then shortly thereafter, in August of 2017, the city adopted the St. Helens Urban Renewal Plan, and this property is within the urban renewal area. The city council is authorized by the plan to act as the governing body of the agency, and then also, of course, the city council. The purchaser is interested in terminating the land lease and purchasing the property, of course. That's why we're here. There's certain requirements that we, of course, have to meet. Some of those are the notice requirements. For example, this is immediately adjacent to a railroad, and so we were supposed to notify them pursuant to Oregon Revised Statutes 271.310, subsection 3. And notice was submitted to the Rail Division on October 9th, at least 30 days before this meeting, pursuant to the statute. And there has been no response. And when we get no response, that tells us there is no concern from the agency. The notice of the proposed sale and the public hearing pursuant to ORS 221.725, subsection 2, is another thing that we're supposed to do. Notice was published on November 7th, 2018, during the week prior to the public hearing. That way, the general public is aware of the matter. So the other thing we're supposed to talk about is the nature of the sale and terms, including the appraisal. And one thing I want to mention that's a component of the sale is we have to do a land partition to carve this off to sell it. And that's something that's happening separately from this and is still in process. And so the sale won't occur tomorrow morning. This will authorize signature of the purchase and sale agreement and get the ball rolling in that regard. But in regards to the general terms, the nature and general terms, the price is $3,489,859,000. and 58 cents. The terms, it's to be seller financed, and it's over a period of 60 months, and the payment schedule is one that increases over time. And the idea is that once things progress, there's more income to pay the fee. And we did have it appraised. As mentioned before the meeting, there is a copy of the summary of the appraisal on the table in the back of the room if you're interested in that. But the appraisal noted that it came out just a little over $1.5 million. The purchase and sale agreement, like I mentioned, is still being negotiated. So this is an urban renewal agency meeting as well as the city council, so we need to discuss that pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 457.230. And the main thing there is to recognize that it authorizes making land available for use by private enterprise. This is industrial property. We want to see it used. We want to see it increase jobs, tax base, things like that. That's what industrial property is for. And of course, we know that Boise, or the paper mill that is left after Boise, does not employ the numbers that it used to, and we would like to see that property help the city along. The urban renewal plan, this is something that the city adopted, authorizes sale by Section 5 of the plan. Some other things of note that regards the partition and some of the important factors in the sale agreement. So obviously there's the price, which we talked about. There's also a community benefit fee, which is proposed in that, and that is $2,000 per month over a 5-year period. And that is for a charity of the city's choosing over time. So for the nonprofits out there, keep that in mind. And then there's also a stipulation for a public safety, education, and parks fund. And this is something that's ongoing, and it's based on the size of production and whether or not actual production is going on. The proposed use is industrial agriculture by the entity. And the location of the parcel is such that it doesn't abut public right-of-way or utilities, and so we need some agreements to make sure that stuff is okay. It's more of a, we don't see it as a deal killer. It's just something we have to take care of to dot our I's and cross our T's. I think that is the overview. There's a lot of people here, and I'm sure a lot of you have something to say, so we may as well start the public testimony. And we're going to do this in a typical fashion that most of you are probably used to, but we're going to start with those in favor of the proposal, and then those who are neutral in the proposal, and then finally anybody who is opposed to this particular sale. So with that, does anybody want to provide testimony in favor of this sale? And I should mention, for the sake of time, we do have 5 minutes. Yes, please.
Howard Blumenthal, St. Helens. I'm pretty much in favor of it. It's a great way for the city to get some of their money back on the property. You know, it's a green business. It's going in there. It's not oil. It's not really going to heavily pollute like some of our other industries that we have in the area. You know, we also need to remember, as some of the people in the audience say, this is a very small group, you know, when you compare it to how many people are here in the city. So there's probably a lot more of us out there that just don't want to come in and put our names to testimony to see a business like this get started in St. Helens. You know, it's a very small piece of the property that you guys are going to get rid of, you know. It's something that wants to get going right now and start creating jobs right now, I believe, isn't it? So I think that it'd be good for the community, and I wish you all the best of luck in doing it.
It's close. Thank you. Anybody else who would like to provide testimony in favor of this proposal? I don't see any takers. So anybody who is on the fence or neutral that wants to make a comment? Okay, we got a neutral. Come on up.
Good evening, Frank Brandon, Tualatin Street. I guess clarification. It seems like I've heard a couple weeks back that the purchasers of this property would have a right of refusal for other potential purchasers of the rest of the property. And is that correct, or did I hear something wrong?
And
I can answer on that a little bit.
Okay.
No, they have the right if they want to purchase it. If somebody's in line and they don't have the cash, it's being sold. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
I had misunderstood something I heard someplace along the line a couple weeks ago and wanted clarification. Thank you.
That lease is moot. The lease is moot.
Okay.
We're not talking about the lease at all. This is a purchase agreement.
yeah, the lease did have an option to purchase, but of course now we're talking about the purchase. So I'm assuming, are you neutral, Steve?
I'm neutral.
Okay.
I'm going to give you numbers. Steve Topaz. Just some numbers to kind of get your head around everything. We're talking about 8.2 acres. You heard the sales price. That's about $400,000 an acre. Now, the waterfront property was estimated at $200 million, or about $11 million per acre. The lagoon, as a toxic waste dump, the numbers were anywhere from $40 million to $200 million, basically from $1 million to $5 million an acre. So we're talking about $500,000 for the sale of this property versus $5 to $11 million for the properties around it. Now, because of public outcry, the city gave away $20 million in permits because they didn't want buildings up to 75 feet high on the waterfront. So the city basically threw away $20 million from permits. Okay. And that's about $1 million an acre, roughly. Now, we hear about all these people we're going to hire, and we have to remember that these people are going to drive cars. And you start, say you're hiring 200 people, you're going to throw away more than an acre of ground, so the 8 acres goes down to 7 acres. And someone once mentioned 1,000 people. That means you got 2 acres to put 1,000 people on. Okay, if you want to see how much agricultural ground, 200 people means a person is taking care of 34 square feet, 34 by 34. You really have a hard time imagining any agribusiness like that. Now, one of the things we've done, and it's the city's attitude, if you would, we gave away $20 million because of height, but we took away $500,000 from the schools because we made them, on this new building in the middle school, pay basically $500,000 in permits. So we give some to basically 10 or 15 people on the Nob Hill, but the schools we take away from. Okay. Now, the next thing is how much money can we expect these people to make? There's a study, I think it was done by Columbia City. Agribusiness, a typical worker makes around $7,000 a year. Tourism makes about $46,000, and hospitality, waitresses, maids and so on, hotels makes about $21,000. But you run the numbers the other way, you get $1.5 million for 200 employees. You get $9 million if you have a big tourism job here for 200 people, or $4.5 million if you have hospitality. So we're not getting a whole lot of money. Now, the next part of it is the city doesn't collect any taxes on this, and the income tax goes to the state. So anything the workers make doesn't come here. That's part of what we have to worry about. The other thing on the sales price and this business of right of first refusal, typically when you buy a property or an operation, you pay extra for that right of first refusal. And since the city is financing the front end of the this operation, you wonder if a company comes up and wants to buy this piece of property, the city, according to the old agreement, I don't know how the new agreement stands, oh, we've got to offer it to them. So we say, oh yeah, we'll buy it. City, just loan us the money, so we're going to purchase it. I would like to see or have the legal people really go over the document to see how the sale and this continuing sale business goes. I'm very worried about that. I thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else in neutral?
Never used to be neutral. Oh. This is sort of a new position for me. So I think there are some pros and cons, which is why I'm neutral. I'm not a big fan of pot. I don't like alcohol either, but we tried prohibition. Doesn't work. It's a legal substance. It's here. I am concerned about selling property. I'd rather see it leased, but I understand the reasons why you have to sell it versus lease it. So to me, that's sort of a no-brainer. This is a small portion of property out of what, almost 400 acres?
204.
204?
204. Yep.
Okay. The one thing I did, that's an industrial, but then,
We're only talking about, the reason why you're thinking of different numbers because of all of those parcels being
is
put
about
together.
400.
Right, when you start adding up that whole area over there, it's a whole different deal, but we're just talking about
The industrial.
the
area.
white paper parcel that
Right.
was originally 204.
Okay. And then the one thing that Steve had said, which was the issue about no tax, I didn't understand. Is that true?
That's not true. No.
Okay.
No. The tax falls within our urban renewal, and the city will get 100% of the tax. The urban renewal will. That's why we have a
So-
hearing here tonight.
So since the urban renewal district is not yet established, or is it actually?
It is
established?
It is.
established.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes in, then it will be in the urban renewal zone.
Yes.
And we'll go back to pay back the debt for the urban renewal.
It will contribute to the urban renewal funds.
Okay. Which to me is a bigger plus actually for it, because that's the point of urban renewal is that you're never going to be able to pay back your urban renewal if you don't have industry. And while, again, it's a legal substance, it's there. If you don't start putting something there, what are you going to do with it? Just let it set? It's a business. Yeah. Is it risky? Probably. It's a little risky, but I don't know. To me, drug dealers seem to have a lot of money. So it's like, hopefully he'll make money. And if he doesn't, what's the worst case scenario? You get the property back, right? Mm-hmm. If they default on the property, it comes back, and any improvements that they have or have not made is yours to do what you want. So, like I said, I think there's some pros and some cons, but overall, I guess I would say I would approve it. I think it's a good idea, but I do have some concerns. But overall, I would say it's better to have it there than have it not be used.
Jacob, is it okay for me to say a few comments? Just maybe so I can clarify. So, because I think the questions will probably come up.
Yeah, if you just want to clarify
Yeah.
for efficiency of future comments.
Yeah,
sure.
just for efficiency. So this is the very furthest away property from City Hall right here. It is a back little triangle shape. It was a hole. If you look at Google Maps in the 80s, it was a brownfield hole that we were selling that was filled up. We had Kurt Eisenschmidt's yard on top of it. It does appraise at a little over $1.5 million, not $11 million. We had it appraised. We are selling it for $3.5 million. I just want to make it very clear that it is a brownfield as well, and there is only 15 acres total on the backside of the current leased property of Cascade Tissue back there, and this is 8.2 of those 15 acres. Okay, I just want to make it clear where it's at, and what it is.
Those are good clarifications. So, and actually, I guess we should describe the property just
Yeah.
so everybody understands. So it's basically a flat property. You can see the parcel shown there, kind of irregular in shape. There are 3 buildings existing on it today that were leftovers from the mill property that the prospective owner is currently improving for their use, and of course wants to use them perpetually. And it's a large portion, not the entire parcel, but a large portion is an old landfill site for the mill, what they called the South 80 landfill. And 2 of the buildings are on top of that. And we do have a Brownsfield grant to analyze that to make sure it's okay to build upon, and it doesn't look like it is. And of course, being a landfill that's been capped, it's a nice flat area for future buildings. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Those are good details. So that brings us back to the public testimony. Any more of those of you out there who want to speak who are neutral? Okay. Well, that means those of you who oppose this particular proposal, it's your turn.
My name's Diane Dillard, 124 North 2nd Street, and I submit this letter, and I'd like it entered into the public record for tonight's public hearing on the sale of city-owned property. I oppose the sale for several reasons. Number one, growing cannabis or any other agricultural products on this prime piece of industrial property is a travesty. Agricultural products can be grown pretty much anywhere in this county. This transaction with industrial land that was basically donated by Boise is using a scarce resource that is publicly owned. You have a responsibility to make sure it's utilized in a manner that's in the best interest of the public. Let's change the word marijuana into the word corn. Would you sell a prime piece of industrial property to grow corn on the cob? The city gave no notice of its intent to sell this property after one city councilman was subsidized to visit the buyer. Simply, a shell company is buying it, and it's a sale that I consider shady and that could be active for up to 35 years. The city needs family wage jobs, and it's a proven fact that agricultural operations use mostly unskilled labor and pay minimum wages. I served nearly 10 years on the Waterfront Planning Commission for the city of St. Helens. Our mission was to find places for businesses who hired skilled workers, paid family wage jobs, and produced a product that was needed. We are known for our superior waterfront area with potential for useful products and services in high demand. And it's also widely known that there's a substantial glut of cannabis in Oregon. So I question the long-term viability of this operation. Please go back to the mission outlined for us when those world-renowned architects visited our community several years ago and find the proper tenants for this piece of property. Thank you for your consideration.
Diane, could you give one of those letters to Lisa, please?
Yes, I have one that's signed.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Blair Walter, 1545 3rd Street in Columbia City. Council people, Mayor, thank you. I'm going to read a prepared letter, and then I have some exhibits to enter into the record. I'm writing this letter in opposition to the sale of the property, the 8.21 acre parcel property, industrial property, in the Boise Watt paper site, located at 1300 Castor Road. Although I am a resident of Columbia City, I am a citizen stakeholder in this transaction as it affects my property tax base all throughout the county. My primary concern is the sale of prime industrial property for agricultural purposes. Section 2 of the proposed resolution that we were given states, the City Council finds it convenient and in the public interest to sell the parcel to ACSP for use as an industrial agricultural facility. I disagree with this statement, as selling an industrial property for agriculture is not necessarily in the best interest of the public, and in particular, the Urban Renewal Agency. If the purpose of the Urban Renewal Agency is to use increases in property taxes to upgrade infrastructure, this sale would be contrary to that stated objective. Now, I know there's no property taxes now being collected on it. However, I'll get into that in a second. In the state of Oregon, cannabis cultivation and production is considered an agricultural activity. Oregon has special rules for the property tax treatment of agricultural land called farm use assessment. Most of you probably know about this. And it's for exclusive use within farm zones. However, land that is not in exclusive farm use zones may still receive that treatment, the special abatement, the special valuation that they get for property tax purposes, if after 2 years its primary use meets specific criteria for use and income. I believe that ACSP will qualify for that tax treatment after 2 years. I have attached an exhibit that outlines what that rule is. If they do indeed qualify for the farm assessment, the taxes they pay will be on the land, as my understanding, will be a considerable multiple lower than what a normal industrial tenant would pay. This special tax treatment specifically includes lands under buildings where agricultural activities, including processing, take place. This is the case in hand. It is my understanding this facility will grow and process. ACSP would still owe personal property taxes on their equipment and property tax on their building. However, as an agricultural facility, it is unlikely they will have the same high dollar equipment that you would find in a typical light industrial or manufacturing endeavor. I've included in this letter some local examples of differences in taxes paid by industrial agricultural business versus manufacturers. Now, obviously, there's a great deal of difference between these businesses, but I think you'll see that the actual tax that they pay is substantially different. So one of our only actual industrial agricultural businesses in the county is Sealy Mint Farms. They're out in Clatskanie. They have 228 acres, and they grow and process mint. They have multiple buildings, land, and equipment. Their annual assessed tax was $7,804 for the $7,804 for the 18-19 tax year. West Coast Shoe Factory, for those of you that know, they're up on the hill in Scappoose. They have 2.45. Now, again, that was 228 acres that Sealy has, and they do the processing of their mint. West Coast Shoe Factory has 2.45 acres. They build high-end boots and shoes in Scappoose. They pay $24,000 a year in property taxes. Pacific Stainless Products, they got 4.71 acres. Land and equipment, $96,000 they pay in property taxes. Cascade Tissue Group, still considered light industry, probably the Scappoose facility, because it's just the processing. On their 49 acres, their taxes were $131,000, and that's after they get their special treatment for a few years. And then Orpet, which is the recycling facility down on the port land. I don't have the numbers that pass through from the port for the land, but just on their plant and equipment, they pay $98,000 in property taxes a year. So I personally have no issues with the marijuana industry. However, I am seeing frequently in the press that there is a large oversupply of marijuana in the state of Oregon. Without the ability to legally export the product in the other states, I am concerned about the viability of this business. Normally, this would not matter to me personally. It really doesn't, as I believe anyone should be free to start their own business and to succeed or fail at that business. It is a bit different in this instance with local government financing the sale. Can I go 10 seconds over?
Yep.
Okay. It is a bit different in this instance with local government financing the sale of this property to the business. If this business were to fail to make their payments, there would be considerable cost to the city to foreclose and take that property back. In my opinion, this would be an imprudent risk for the city to take. In the end, I believe this is a bad plan for the city of St. Helens. If this business succeeds, the city will indeed get their money for the sale, but suffer the long-term reduction in property taxes paid by agricultural businesses in Oregon. Obviously, if no business is on the land, again, there would be no tax revenue. However, there would also be no opportunity to attract a more suitable manufacturer or other light industrial buyer. And I'm understanding there's not a lot of buildings on this property, so this one's kind of ready to go, right? As there, in general?
Yeah, there's 3 buildings on it.
But I mean, in the whole Boise White property, there's not a lot of buildings. This is one of the few spots that actually has buildings and ready to go, correct?
Yeah, if you look at the entire
In general,
acreage,
right.
there's
Okay.
a lot of open space, yeah.
So if this business fails, obviously the considerable cost involved in taking the property back and preparing it for the next buyer. In the end, I see this as kind of a no-win. You know, I'm not against the business, what they do. I just don't think it's the place for it, and I think there's a better use for it and a better way to attract the right businesses to come in and really bring in that property tax revenue that we need so badly
Yep.
here. So
I would just like that. You can appreciate, you're a money man, okay? And you can appreciate mint and marijuana are apples and oranges. When you're harvesting every 2 months a building
Right.
of millions of dollars worth of product,
correct.
okay? I just want to put that, and I'm not going to say I have numbers, but that is not even a fair assessment of tax.
No, I was referring to the property taxes associated
Yes,
with the
I know exactly what you're referring to.
right. So the
Yeah,
so
and
the,
this would be a cultivation center with buildings that are designed. It is the largest. I want to make this clear. This is the largest grow of its kind. The OLCC has a permit to date.
right. So you're saying that it won't qualify for the agricultural exemption?
I do not believe it will.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, please give it to Lisa. Thank you. Okay, next up.
You want my name?
I know
Tammy.
your name, but yeah, could you state it for the record?
Yeah, Tammy Magra, 34319 Canaan Road, Deer Island. Even though I live in Deer Island, I've been in this community my whole life. My family's been here since the 1870s, 1880s, so we are invested in here. I want to kind of jump around a little bit. I'm just going to read my testimony to make it go faster. In February, state officials announced that 1.1 million pounds of cannabis flower were logged in the state's database. If 1 million pounds sounds like a lot, that's because it is. Last year, Oregonians smoked, vaped, or otherwise consumed just under 340,000 pounds of legal bud. That means Oregon farmers have grown 3 times what their clientele can smoke in a year. Yet state documents show the number of Oregon weed farmers is poised to double without much regard to whether there's a demand to fill it. The results? Prices are dropping to unpredicted lows in auction houses and dispensary counties across the state. Wholesale sun-grown weed fell from $1,500 a pound last summer to as low as $700 by mid-October. On store shelves, that means the price of sun-grown flower has been sliced in half from $8 a gram to $4 a gram, a huge drop in the business's financially sound stability. But it has left growers and sellers with a high-cost product that's a financial loser, and a new feeling has descended on the once confident Oregon cannabis industry. It's called panic. Willamette Week spoke to 24 people across Oregon's cannabis industry. They described a bleak scene, small businesses laying off employees and shrinking operations, people's losing their life savings and are unable to declare bankruptcy because marijuana is still a federally scheduled narcotic. Oregon Girl Gardens received glowing profiles from Dope Magazine and Oregon Leaf. They have 12 years of experience in the medical marijuana system, a plot of family land in Clackamas County, and branding as one of the state's leaders in organic and women-led cannabis horticulture. She fears she'll be out of business by the end of the year. The prices just never went back up. Another problem is the OLCC basically issued a license to anyone who qualified. There's out-of-state money flooding the Oregon system. In 2016, state lawmakers decided to lift a restriction that banned out-of-state investors from owning, controlling, sharing of local farms and dispensaries. As of April 1st, Oregon had licensed 963 recreational cannabis grows, while another 910 waited OLCC approval. That means oversupply. The state reeled in 68 million in cannabis sales last year, but it can't keep pace with supply. Whenever you have emerging markets, there's going to be a lot of people entering the market looking for profit. Once it becomes saturated, it becomes more competitive. This is not a phenomenon that is unique to cannabis. There used to be a lot of computer companies, but there's not so many anymore. Owners can't make the low prices pencil out. Individuals has invested $250,000 in structural, build-outs, lightings, environmental controls, and other initial costs to achieve a 5,000 square foot Tier 1 OLCC approved indoor canopy. Ongoing labor and operational costs adds another $20,000 a month. Weed prices were high. The businesses forecasted a $1,500 per pound return. If they could produce 20 pounds of flower a week, they'd make back their money and start banking profits in 3 months. Last year's October bumper crop tore those plans apart. By the start of the new year, the business was sitting on 100 pounds of weed and inventory trickling out to dispensaries in single pound increments. So they turned to a wholesale, which holds monthly fire sales in undisclosed locations throughout Oregon. To make a long story short, the business sent 60 pounds of pot to the auction block in December. The man had adjusted his expectations downward. He hoped to see something in the ballpark of $400 a pound. It sold for $100 a pound and even as low as $50 a pound. You do the math, $250 per unit cost. Currently, they're operating at a $15,000 per month loss. I'm going to skip some of this so other people can talk. The market data is something else that you need to look at. It's a bust. There's so many of them. There's people. There's folding up. So why do we want to waste our time in this community and spend money on a pot plant? Now I want to go over some of your resolution concerns. I found 2 different things that I didn't quite understand on number 1 and a number 6. You have 2 different acreage listed there. I think I left my other paper at home, but anyway. So there's a problem with that. You have 8 acres on one, and you have 9 point something on the other.
Yeah, I can answer that. So when they entered the lease, the 9.5 was an estimate based on general boundaries, and once we had a look at it as a potential land division, of course, then I had to get involved as the city planner, and we fine-tuned the boundaries, and then that provided us an exact amount, which is the 8. And so those numbers just reflect an evolution of accuracy and refinement.
To be exact, 8.21, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
No,
was correct.
that's a good point, and I think everybody should know that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, my other thing, there is no verbiage declaring a guarantee in the resolutions to protect the city's taxpayers' funds in the event that the pot business fails. And if any taxpayers' funds are used, it should be assured that there shall be a clause for compensation at 100% of repayment of initial costs borne by the taxpayers paid back to the taxpayers in the event that the business fails or is sold. Also being said, the taxpayer money should be held in escrow and have matched funds from this company and not depend on repayment from the potential sale of the facility, because the sale could take years, resulting in even more loss of revenue for the taxpayers. 4, the city won't be held responsible for any cleanup or any financial liability of said acreage or business. The ACSP LCC will hold all responsibility. If they sell to another company, the responsibility of this agreement will follow to the next company herein and so forth. There is no insurance bonding listed in the resolution which names the City of St. Helens as beneficiary if the business ACSP LCC decides to close its doors to cover any outstanding debt which might be owed to the City of St. Helens. Also, the city shall not accept payments on this venture, the $3,489,859.58, or if negotiated in a larger amount, shall be paid in full up front. Depending on a monthly payment, quarterly payment, biannual payment, or yearly payment is not financially sound when attempting to be a codependent entity with a business in a highly competitive and volatile market where failures are common, and a market which has been dropping significantly. in the dollar value of products since it was initiated. In order to protect the taxpayers and the clear title impending sale of said property, the City of St. Helens must and shall, in good faith, require the cash payment for the sale of said property to ACPLCC. In doing so, it will ensure to protect the taxpayers and a clear title. Impending sale of said property, the City of St. Helens must and shall be in good faith require the cash payment of the said property. In doing so, again, it will ensure the taxpayers that ACPLCC is a strong financially and reliable company in which the City of St. Helens and the taxpayers can be assured a positive financial outcome. The number of jobs being created from this venture shall be listed before signing any sale of the property to ensure the number of employees will be considered large enough for the stimulation of economic growth in the community. The wages of these said employees shall be defined as good living wages and set beyond the average area wage beforehand to ensure the livability and economic growth of the community and be part of the successful revitalization of the Boise property and surrounding area. I'd also like to make one other quick comment.
Make it quick, because you're way over.
I'm fast.
Okay.
On your urban renewal, people need to understand that if there's tax on there, somebody buys it and it's taxed at $100 and I come in and buy it, that is the base tax that you will get value on that with your tax.
No,
And then,
it'll
yes,
be
it is.
assessed to value.
It will be an assessed value, correct. But if it's
Yep.
assessed at $100 and your taxes is $50, I could build a $500,000 home on there,
No.
and you will only receive the assessed value of your base assessment.
That's not true.
That
Any
is-
improvements
that is
in that 25 years will be assessed value and go to the urban renewal. You need to, that's the whole point of the urban
I
renewal.
know what urban renewal is, but you need to understand the base.
I do understand. I'm just, and they are, I just want to make this clear, $30,000 to $40,000 they want to pay for employees, and they would like to hire veterans.
And just really, if we do have some new people, so this is the public hearing in regards to the city's sale of property. Obviously, this is the public testimony section. I don't know if you came to testify, but okay, all right.
Hi, Natasha Parvey-Leskowicz, and I live at 35227 Juniper Lane in St. Helens. And I'd like to state that I oppose the sale. The industry is saturated, the marijuana industry, as well as I believe we need living wage jobs, and the industrial property should stay industrial. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rosalie Sumption. I live at 35076 Ruby Court, and I thank you for this opportunity to share my opinion. I oppose this sale to this facility at this time based on the fact that marijuana is illegal at a federal level, and I believe that we have a duty to our children in this community. I believe it sets a bad example for us as a city to be selling this property for something that at a federal level is illegal. If it was private property, it may be a different sort of situation, but as a city, that's us. That's you, that's me. So I think that we have to uphold a little bit higher standard. That way, something else, but I left my mind. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me share that with you. I appreciate your time, and I do urge you to stop this sale. Thank you.
And if you remember later, there's still time.
There aren't very many of you. Hi, I'm Alan King, 174 North 8th, St. Helens. I am indeed one of the citizens of your city. And I think I'll take a little different tact. You have the responsibility as our elected council and mayor to represent and achieve what's the best for the citizens. St. Helens is in a spectacular place. We have an incredible waterfront. The basalt cliffs could, rather than be an obstacle, can make an incredible town with streets running along them and terraces, and you could build us all landscape terracing on them. But we have an inferiority complex. We think we're the garbage can. We are not the garbage can. That is our attitude. Nobody wants a battery recycling plant. Oh, sure, we'll take it. And they promised. They promised it would work and not pollute and it would be wonderful, and it wasn't. Oh, sure, you want to make plastic buckets. Hey, we'll welcome you. Oh, you're only paying minimum wage, and in fact, you have to offer a $500 bonus to get people to stay. It's either 3 or 6 months because they're not very good jobs. Or pet. We take the whole state's plastic garbage in the form of water bottles and other recyclables like that. They hire all the time because they are poor jobs that pay a poor wage. Right now, they're very proud they pay more than minimum wage. Well, eventually the minimum wage very soon will catch up to what they're paying. You cannot support a family. You can't even support an individual living in a ramshackle studio apartment on these kind of jobs. We're taking wonderful industrial land that could have deep water access and saying, oh, sure, bring in an industry that's probably going to pay most of their people a low wage that people cannot live on. You can work full-time and be homeless because you can't pay rent. And I think as the City Council and Urban Renewal Commission, you owe the citizens better. Why do they want this property? Well, it's flat. It's relatively cheap if you look at industrial land. It has great access to the Portland area. Well, that's the same reason many other companies would like it. I spent 32 years with the assessor's office. I was the commercial and industrial appraiser. And we go by the idea of highest and best use. You should always get out of an asset the highest amount you can. Quit thinking that we're the garbage can and we just have to take the leftovers. That's not true. We have a beautiful, potentially incredible town that many people would like to live in. Small manufacturers that are making innovative products where their employees want quality of life. We can give them all that, but not if there's a marijuana plant. The other thing I'm concerned about is the smell. They always tell you, oh, we've got the technology. It'll be taken care of. Other marijuana growth, I'm sure you've noticed in the press, smell bad. So you take a whole area, not just a piece of ground, and you make it smell bad. The composting facilities in Portland, oh, don't worry, we've got the technology. Untrue. After years and years of controversy, they still smell bad. We have the immediate, which I just mentioned, example of Berg soap. We've got the technology. It's expensive to run the technology effectively. So with a poor market, they're going to let the smells out, and nobody else is going to want to locate there, including the companies with high wage jobs that we want here. Thank you.
All right, who's next?
Never done this before. This is the first time I've been here. My name's Nick, and I live in Rainier, Oregon, by a Foss tugboat. I just want to make myself clear. I am not against cannabis. Cannabis has helped my one son, has a rare genetic disorder. He functions better on it. Now, unfortunately, I lived in California for 7 years and owned my own cannabis business at the time. And I see what happens when you get all these people competing, trying to get their hand to the pie is what I call it. You know, it's like a gold rush. Everybody looks at cannabis, we can make lots of money. That's, to me, that is their agenda. Growing 1,000 plants myself, it took 2 people to do it. And hearing in the paper, some of you guys say, it's going to bring 1,000 jobs. That's not true. It's not going to bring that much. Right now, the market's so flooded. And like the lady back there said, you can't you can maybe luckily get $500 a pound, you know. Right now, I just don't think it's necessary. We already have a lot of dispensaries, you know. How many more of those do we need?
She said $50 a pound.
Is it fit? Well, I've never heard that, but you know, I mean, the lowest I have heard is 500. You know, I remember back in California, it was 2,500 a pound. You know, and the market's so flooded, they don't even know how to disperse it because of the federal level. You know, the federal level is what's holding us back. But I really believe we could use this property for something better for everybody that'll have benefits, you know, insurance. I really do, you know, but that's all I have to say. I appreciate you listening.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious. So your firm Ringonier, did you read it in the paper?
Well, I've been reading online and the paper
okay.
a lot too, and then talking to a lot of the old fellas that grew up here, you know, working
Yeah.
at the mill and stuff, and it just, I don't think it's right for this town. There's so much of it right now, you can't really get rid of it, you know, and I think we could use that property for something good, you know, for people.
Is there plenty of product? I'm just curious, is there?
Thank you.
I'm just curious, is there plenty of product for medicine, the CBD side of things? Just,
CBD? Oh, yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot.
the rubbing of tinctures and stuff like that, there's no shortage on that?
No, there's no, I mean, you can go to a smoke shop now and get CBDs in a crystallite form, which I give my son because it helps his seizures and stuff.
So it helps a lot of people medically.
It does.
Yep, okay.
We have a lot
Yep.
already.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey.
I'm Leah, and I live right here in St. Helens, and I relocated here about three years ago that we actually moved our home where we live here too. St. Helens is extremely beautiful, which is why we relocated. We have two businesses. We sold a home and moved here to be closer to this one because St. Helens is so beautiful. And not just the area, but the people in St. Helens are very uniquely beautiful also. They're much kinder than when you go other places, and we were just really, my whole family was taken back by St. Helens and the kindness and what's here. And I definitely feel like this is not a good fit for St. Helens, and that I have kids and I want them to get to stay here too, because the people of community that you're around matters a lot. It matters more than the money that you make. And so when I see something going in that's going to pay such low wages, I just picture my kids. I have two adult sons and then a younger daughter, but I don't want them that to be their option for going to work. I look at Scappoose and they have all this high-tech stuff going on and they're getting all these grants for more high-tech stuff, and then I look at our waterfront and I look at our town and I go, but we're better. Like, not that we're in some competition with them, but I feel like that if we just sit there and kind of say, this is our value, this is what we're going to want our kids to grow up and work at, that this is what we are, it's just not for us. And the other thing is that this has been legalized like a second ago. Like, not very long in the big picture of things did this become legal. And I feel like that we are just jumping in 2 feet forward, and we don't know a lot of the big picture ramifications of being so involved with it. So for the city to take this good piece of property and jump into it when we don't know the big picture of what this is going to be, that doesn't seem smart. I mean, we're not just talking about a store that might close down. I mean, we're talking about something much bigger. And so I think that we're jumping in too fast when we don't know the whole picture, and we've got too much on the line to do that. And I look at all the kids that go to high school here, and I don't want them to have to move away to get a good job. We should wait and hold out and get something better where they want to raise their families here too, because St. Helens is worth that. And that's my 2 cents. So I have no numbers or anything fancy other than hold out for something good. Let's just wait it out. We can do that. So anyway, that was it. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else in opposition?
My name is Agnes Peterson, and it's so nice to be here with you. However, I've got some real concerns procedurally. I want to start with what happened in this room when your attorney came in. Before the hearing started, he came in and he says, "Have you seen the front page of the appraisal?" And then he handed out the front page of the appraisal. And then he said, "We'll put the front page of the appraisal back there so you folks can get the front page of the appraisal." So I looked at the front page of your appraisal, and I noticed that the inspection date was September 17, 2018. And on October 9, 2018, the appraisal was made available by Benham Appraisal Services. I'm very familiar with Jeff Benham. I've known him for many, many years, and I've had appraisals done by him for clients. I also am somewhat familiar with how appraisals are done, and what disturbs me about the appraisal is, number one, apparently you've had it since October 9, 2018, and although you knew you were going to have a public hearing, nobody shared it with a member of the public before tonight, so nobody could even look at it or consider whether the assumptions that were made were reasonable. Further, I notice that there's only one page, and that's the summary page, not the appraisal. Jeff Benham ordinarily makes appraisals that are about 30 or 40 pages long. And there's 3 methods that you determine value. You can't tell from this. What is the appraisal about? Is it valid? Is it invalid? Are the assumptions correct? Or what? So I really object to the manner of handling this in this fashion. No notice to the public, no appraisal ahead of time, although you've had it since October 9, no comparables, nothing. So nobody can challenge it, nobody can get another appraisal, which I might do if I knew what it said. Further, in your summary, Jacob, you did not say whether there was an option to purchase more property, a right of first refusal, how much was paid for that, if anything. And I'm going to also take a different tack than anybody else has taken in this room. And I want you to hear this. And if you're still in negotiation for the sale of this property, I want you to understand that I think you're going into a very, very dangerous area. During my lifetime as a lawyer, I have handled what are called products liability cases. And I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but I'm going to give you some example of products liability. Maybe you have heard of breast implant cases. They were putting breast implants in people with silicone in them that then leaked and killed the people that they went into. It became a huge thing for products liability lawyers to handle. The most recent one that you hear about, you've heard about asbestos, I'm sure. That's a product liability case. And for years, you could end up with a liability over the product or its defect. Now, I am familiar with what goes on with the growing of pot. And I know that pot sometimes gets bugs. And guess what they do with bugs on pot? They use pesticides. Now, the one product which has been sued unbelievably a lot is tobacco. And they do that claiming that they put in various chemicals into the product. Well, it will be very dangerous to anyone smoking pot if a pesticide has been used. What does that have to do with you? Well, it has a lot to do with you because you need to build into any agreement, and someone said it earlier about liability, but you need to build into any agreement an absolute restriction on the city having any liability for products liability because of the product causing injury. I'd like to ask a couple questions. You said this is 8.21 or some amount of acreage.
That's exactly what I said.
Is that all?
That's it.
They don't have any right to buy any more?
If they would like to try to purchase property, if somebody else is in line or wants to purchase property from the city of St. Helens and has the cash, they're first.
Okay, so are you giving a right of first refusal? That's the question.
No.
No right of first refusal?
No.
Okay, so that's different than what you had before.
The lease is moot.
Okay.
Yep.
And the second thing that is notice, I like to see the four corners of a document. And I think this is a very cursory summary of what your proposed terms are. I think the public of this city and this county is entitled to better than that. And I think it should be in writing so we can clearly understand the parameters of the proposed sale. So based upon what I've just said, I suggest that you shouldn't be in such a big hurry and give the people who are in your community, and I include all of Columbia County, an opportunity to review the appraisal and review the actual terms. And I want to thank you all for listening to me. I'm sure it made a lot of impression. Goodbye.
Yeah, could you comment, please?
The statute that talks about the making the appraisal available says that an appraisal or other evidence of value shall be presented at the meeting, and so. In fact, the purchase price, it was an offer, a negotiated purchase price. That's probably the best evidence. And when a judge looks at as an attorney, you know this well, when an arm's length transaction is negotiated, somebody offers money, the other side agrees to take it, that's the best evidence of value, and that's the $3-point-something million on a seller finance term, and that is, both of those numbers comply with the statute. I don't believe the statute requires an appraisal, and it doesn't. I've seen many cities purchase and sell property without an appraisal, but it was obtained by the city in order to make the public feel like the city isn't selling out cheap, is my understanding of it. And it was done for reassurance. It appears to me to be somewhat less than this particular buyer's use. I'm not sure that any other buyer would pay more than the $1.55 million that the appraisal came in at. This is a special user and apparently has a greater value. That's my theory of it. I'm not an appraiser, so I couldn't swear to that. But you're smiling. Neither of us is an appraiser, but it was based on the three kinds of valuations: the going concern value, replacement value. It's on the report. An appraiser can't give an appraisal without looking at the three levels of appraisal, and yeah. I don't have one with me. I'm not sure that there's any secret. But.
No, there's no secret. And did you have any other stuff that you had jotted down that you wanted to talk about?
Let me just see for a second. It was on that.
So you did state for the record that you are familiar with this appraiser. He's a legit guy, and he does quite a bit of appraisals for you as well. You mentioned in your testimony.
Well, I'd like to see the appraisal.
So it is public. It is public.
The public records.
Public records, and it is. We have a dollar amount of $1.55 million, $1.55 million assessed value of the property.
Yeah.
So, and that's. Well. So under our, and I hear you, but under our urban renewal, it is my impression that we don't really even have
No.
to have an appraisal.
That's absolutely true. In the urban renewal area, what you're looking at selling is at a fair reuse value. I'm also a city attorney in another city where we were looking at selling a piece of property at far less than we got 3 different appraisals because the parties couldn't agree on what the appraised value is. But in an urban renewal area, the statute requires the fair reuse value, which may be lower and may be higher or may be the same as the fair market value. Because the purpose of an urban renewal area is to get land back into productive use, to make it part of the community again, especially land which is a covered landfill, which has buildings built over it. There are not an awful lot of people who would simply buy one of those and take on the potential liabilities that are associated with that. It's a very complicated set of CERCLA law and state laws that have a lot of ways to limit liability for a purchaser. But in this case, the purchaser is willing to take it with the testing they've done and go forward.
And the city did know that, and we went ahead and had it appraised anyhow because it was requested by our citizens that we get it appraised, so we did that. And that's the answer we're giving you. Okay? Any other testimony?
So who's next?
Hi, my name's Robin Loper. I reside at 1554th Street in Columbia City, so I'm not a resident of St. Helens, but I have a very strong vested interest in the children and families in this whole community. And I don't care what the assessed value is on this property, because I wouldn't care if it was priceless, but I think the use that you are planning to use it for isn't at the best interest of our community, our children's, and our families. We do need wage-paying jobs. I work in the community as a public employee. I work within an area where we need to support our schools, and I think based on the testimony I've listened to tonight, I feel very strongly that this is not a good thing for our community. And I will continue to support the people that are here tonight in opposition to this testimony or in opposition to this project. And I am totally opposed. And like I said, it doesn't matter to me whether the property is worth $1.5 million and you're getting $3 million. That's not the price tag on this property for me and the families we take care of. Thank you.
Well, who wants to follow that?
It looks like I only needed 3. Since I have extras, I'll give you one, Jacob.
Al Peterson, 155 Clark Street. I have here a letter and I have supporting documentation to go with it. I'd like to just go through the bullet points in my letter and then point out the attachments that go with those bullet points. Opposed to the sale of the Boise property to ASCP Marijuana Growing Company for the following reasons. Marijuana can be grown anywhere in Oregon on farm and forest land. The attached map, which is the first exhibit, shows in green all of the agricultural and forest zoned lands in the entire county. Practically the entire county is green. So somebody said it's a green product. Well, grow it on green zoned lands. The lands in purple, which in this county map are very little compared to the rest of the county, are a scarce resource. Most of you know that it took about 10 years for the airport urban renewal expansion to be accomplished, and industrially zoned lands are very scarce. And it's probably going to take, if it succeeds, It's probably going to take the Port of Columbia County, whether you're for it or against it, but if they get the approval up in Class 9, it's probably going to take about 10 years as well. So it's very scarce, and you should use it for what it is intended for. Yesterday, there was a report on Oregon Public Broadcasting, and I'm going to briefly play.
Mexico, like many U.S. states, may soon legalize marijuana. The president-elect's leftist party, now a majority in Mexico's Congress, has introduced legislation allowing citizens to grow and sell marijuana. And so it becomes a test. A country facing a serious problem with organized drug gangs tries to curb their activities by making one of their businesses legal. NPR's Carrie Kahn reports.
All right, I'm not going to play the whole clip for you, but I have the text of the article in my thing, and basically marijuana is on its way to be legalized nationally in Mexico. Now, my next article is an article from Forbes magazine. Now, before I talk about Forbes magazine, I want to talk about the author. The author is from Chicago. The author has been a pro-cannabis supporter for about 10 years and has been on various pro-cannabis both in Illinois and nationally. But he's also in business. He's a consultant to large cannabis growing facilities throughout the country. And in this article in Forbes magazine, he basically says, and you can see the title of the article, "Cannabis Cultivation Will Be a Race to the Bottom." Well, his basic argument is that Mexico is on its way to legalize cannabis. Colombia is on its way to legalize cannabis. And American companies who are growing cannabis indoors will not be able to compete. This already occurred in certain vegetable industries in Arizona, where greenhouses were being used to grow various vegetables. Well, in Mexico, they started growing the same vegetables, and now these greenhouses, because they have lots of sun there, unlike in Oregon, where they just use lights, these greenhouses are now big dinosaurs because the competition from Mexico growing these vegetables put them out of business. So it's a race to the bottom, and the industry is going to fail as soon as Mexico and Colombia legalizes it. Now, just recently, the Port of St. Helens was approached by a marijuana grower as well, and the Port of St. Helens decided in February of this year to not sell a piece of industrial land in St. Helens, or I think it's technically in the county, but it's right out on Old Portland Road, to a marijuana grower. And the reasons that were given for not selling the land was because they wanted to use industrial land for industrial purposes, not agriculture. Now, as someone already said, it's low-skilled jobs. Somebody already mentioned a glut on the market, so I'm not going to mention that. Also in this, these exhibits, I have page 10 of this report, which I forwarded to you a few days ago. This is an economic report which has to do with Columbia County. It's called the Economic Opportunities Analysis. It was commissioned by the city of Columbia City. On page 10, which I've included in your exhibits, there is a listing of the actual amounts of wages that are being paid to employees. And then there's also what's called a LQ analysis. And I'm not an economist, but basically the idea is the higher the LQ and the higher the wages, those are the types of industries you should go for. Well, agriculture is down towards the bottom of the list. It's almost the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's fifth from the bottom, 2 above private household income, meaning somebody, I guess, having a home business in their kitchen or something like that, and other industries. So you are proposing a low LQ and a low wage industry on a piece of industrial land in St. Helens. Now, in terms of CBDs, CBDs are already being researched, and they're being researched at good universities. University of California, Davis has a very good CBD research facility. Cornell University has a good research facility. The Mayo Clinic has a research facility. I forgot the other one, but they're all doing CBD research. Well, the University of California, Davis just recently signed a contract with a CBD producer from Canada. All right, well, the reason that was given for using the CBD producer in Canada was they could not find anybody in the US that could give them quality product. So you need somebody who knows what they're doing with chemistry, who knows what they're doing relative to pharmaceuticals, and can provide a very specific quality product for the pharmaceutical industry. Well, let's look at Columbia County. We don't have any universities. We don't have any chemistry labs. We have very few chemists that I know of. And we don't have any facility to do that kind of research. And I doubt we will have a lot of those facilities in the future. So I think that this notion that somehow St. Helens is really going to become a CBD research hub is wrong, because it's already being done in major universities. And right now, my last comment is, right now, industries are having a hard time getting employees because the employees can't pass the P test. And I think that's a travesty. And by St. Helens saying, oh, well, I guess we'll grow marijuana, and like somebody else said, we can't find anything else, I think you can do better. Thank you.
Art Leskowicz, I'm a citizen here in St. Helens, and learned a lot by listening to a lot of the folks here tonight. I'm disappointed that more of our counselors are not sitting here. I had a question why Keith recused himself from the decision. If you can share that.
He recused himself
per the lawsuit, I think.
Yeah, he recused himself the first time we had a public hearing in this matter.
Yep.
And I think because of his relationship with the prospective buyer.
Relationship. Financially involved?
I don't believe so, but he's
I think it would be inappropriate to speculate. And
No.
All right, but again,
if he
would like
felt,
to see-
if
would
he
like to
felt
see-
the need to recuse himself, he did, and that's
So I'm
all there is.
interested in the process, and I'm learning a lot about this process. Cut to the chase, I don't think the best and highest value of the land is being used for this agricultural operation. And it is an industrial property, lots of waterfront. One of the things I know the council is very much behind is filling in that lagoon with contaminated sediments that will go on for the next 20, 30 years potentially. It's interesting that you mentioned this recreational medical facility, agriculturally based, is being built on an old landfill. It's a brownfield. It's a site that's just covered with dioxin, and to have a medical product being built, produced on this old landfill, just strikes me as being absolutely ludicrous, especially when there's much better places for this type of activity to occur. I understand one of the big draws is the cheap electricity on the site. But other than that, I don't see any real value to the producer, and it would be interesting to see a presentation from this company I don't know if he's ever been here, gave a presentation or anything like that to the public.
Actually we did, and we actually had CSET involved. Brian Little, our old city administrator here, sat in and filled in for Chuck Daughtry in February 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yes, so it's not like this has been a secret. This is how long this has been going on, and it was very public back then that we were meeting with these guys.
And again, I question sometimes what you consider transparency and open to the public.
Sure.
And we just
That's all your
and that
perception,
that
though.
is my
Yeah.
opinion. When I
Yep.
heard what we talked about this appraisal here, and I've circled the due to these circumstances, this appraisal includes the extraordinary assumption, and that's in italics. What are these extraordinary assumptions? So I'm still learning about the process, very confused and not comfortable with the transparency that I'm seeing. But again, thrilled to death that you're here listening to the comments of the public.
Sure.
Thank you.
And just for the record, I would like to state that we're all looking forward to the process of learning more about that lagoon, including you. That's what that grant is for. We're not in favor. We want to learn what it is and what it's going to be before I make a decision on that. Yes, before I make a decision. Russ.
Russ Hubbard. I'm a developer and I've done multi-million-dollar projects. I see this as not the highest and best use, and that's come up from the tax man and other people. And if it was in there, it's going to have problems of the other development around it. I just don't see this as something that would be viable for that, and it should be more industrial rather than agricultural. And also whoever you're dealing with, this LLC, is owned by another LLC, which is dissolved. So I don't know, if you look them up, it's shady from the standpoint of the public.
Okay. Anybody else?
When will there be a vote on this issue? Will there be a vote?
We'll deliberate later.
Yeah, as part of the regular session, they're going to deliberate on whether to execute the resolution.
Well, I didn't see that in your regular council agenda. If you're voting on this tonight, again, with a very limited number of councilors.
It is an agenda item.
Yep.
Yeah, item number 4.
Oh.
4A, yeah.
That's why I was confused. It says adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting and then continue with the city council meeting. So you don't need all of the city council to vote on this? This is just strictly
The Urban Renewal Agency and City Council are having a joint public hearing, and then during the City Council's regular meeting, they will convene jointly again with the Urban Renewal Agency to vote on and deliberate, so that they don't have to say the same thing twice in 2 separate meetings, basically. It's a more effective use of time and consideration.
It is tonight.
No,
It's scheduled.
If someone moves to adopt it, then it may well be voted on tonight, but it will take a motion.
That'll be up to the council. Yeah, it's not a land use matter where that is mandatory, but it's certainly something that the council can discuss.
And who are the individuals by hand? Show us who's going to be voting on this tonight.
We don't know if we're going to vote yet.
There's only three voters
Well,
present.
us 3.
There's only 3 people present, whether we vote or not. There's only 3. She's
Yes.
reading.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Marianne Anderson, and I just have a few comments. First of all, I want to reiterate what many of the people have said. I appreciate all the people that came tonight and expressed their concerns. I just have basically 2 comments. One is, with regard to procedure, I think that there is complying with the letter and the spirit of the law. And I don't believe you've complied with either, certainly not with the letter of the law with regard to market value and appraisal with regard to the public. The reason that there are statutes allowing the public to participate and give testimony is so that they can give informed information to you so that you can make an informed decision. And no one in this room, other than I guess the people sitting up there, have the information necessary to give informed testimony so that you can make an informed decision. We have 1 page of an appraisal. We don't know what is in the other 5 pages, 10 pages, 30 pages of the appraisal. We have a statement earlier that the terms of the agreement are still under negotiation. So the public has no idea of the terms. So how can we give informed decision to help you make an informed decision on what is in the agreement? So when can we get a copy of the appraisal in full, and when can we get a copy of the terms of the agreement so that we can actually give testimony that matters?
Well, again, the statutes require a general overview of the terms of the sale, and that has been provided. The agreement won't be final until it's until the partition is completed, and that requires access agreements, utility access agreements, a couple of other documents like that to be created, but they're contemplated to be standard access agreements.
Is it the position of the city that they can enter into this agreement without having further public hearings after the terms are negotiated?
That's correct. So long as the terms are within the terms described tonight, yes.
All right, and I also believe the statute requires full disclosure of the appraisal or market value information, and I don't view this as full disclosure. And finally,
I found a copy of my copy in my notebook. I thought I didn't have it with me tonight. Mr. Mayor, would you like me to give it to this lady so she can review it?
I'd like to maybe yeah, that's fine. So, and also, again, I have to come back to, I'd like to get some copies made of that just for a few people. And again, I'd like to reiterate that we did get an appraisal. It is a known appraiser to people and it was not, we did not have to, through our urban renewal, get it appraised. But we chose to because it was a request.
may I finish my testimony?
We're going to give you, yes, you may.
May I finish?
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. My other concern is apparently the terms of this agreement are that it's not a immediate cash out sale. It is the city carrying the contract. Is that correct?
It's not a city carrying a contract. It's a note and trust deed contemplated.
And it goes on for how long?
60 months.
60 months, 5 years.
And I still don't have.
And so you understand a note and trust deed in a commercial setting is much different from a residential note and trust deed. Can be foreclosed in about 120 to 150 days. The statute requires 120 days, but by the time you've delivered things to people, it takes 150 days. One of my clients is a commercial bank that lends a lot of money to people, and I do a lot of those kinds of foreclosures. They're not hard. It takes less than 6 months to get the land back. You have a public auction. Either the city bids to get it back or somebody else comes in and buys it if it's at a price that the city doesn't want to bid that high. So it's a pretty streamlined way of getting the property back if there's a material default in the, especially in the sale, in the payment of the purchase price.
And finally, I'd like to reiterate why this property. I'm looking at that map up there, and what I see is 8.21 acres, pretty much dead center in an area that I think the citizens have hoped is going to be a wonderful, developed industrial area connected to our beautiful waterfront. And I don't know why, out of all that property, you would pick that property to have this sort of business on. And I'm just very concerned that you're putting something in the middle that is going to cause other businesses not want to be there. And that's my biggest concern.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would just like to state for the record that it is not in the middle of this property. It is in a triangular shape on the whole 204 acres. It is a triangular shape budding corner.
Yeah, there is a significantly large wetland to the southwest of that.
That is not usable, definitely is wetland too.
It's a big one, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Any more testimony?
I believe I still have time left, and I guess my concern is not only that it's in the middle, it's right along the water. And if we're going to have a beautiful, developed water area, with that sitting in the middle of it is a real problem. That's my point. If you look on the map, there's the water, there's the property.
Yeah, it's not immediately adjacent. It's close, but it's on the other side of the railroad
I
tracks.
can see that from the map, but if you're going to create a nice pathway or something along the water, what are they going to be going by? You might think about it.
Okay, here's a confusion I think a lot of people have. I want to state this for the record can I, and then I'm going to give it to you. We have two different Boise properties, and people get the Veneer property, which is the waterfront property. That is the Veneer property, Boise Veneer. We have Cascade Tissue, which was formerly known as Boise, and people still call it Boise. We are calling the white paper site Cascade Tissue. St. Helens Industrial Park. We are talking about the St. Helens Industrial Park. We are not talking about the waterfront redevelopment project whatsoever. That property, not a bit of it is being used for this.
My follow-up
Steve,
is...
nope, I'm not going to play this. No.
My follow-up is
You have a
this:
chance
the
to-
land is zoned industrial. Whatever use gets put there is going to be an industrial use, unless there's a significant change in the zoning, which will require planning commission,
Steve.
city council, lots of people.
No, it's my turn.
Nope, you had your
Accord-
chance to
no,
talk to them.
I'm
You had your
against now.
chance. You
I'm
had-
talking against. The deep water all the way back to where the kayaking place by the Army Corps of Engineers
5 minutes.
is considered deep water port. That is waterfront property, not on the direct river, but it is deep water harbor property. That's Army Corps definition.
Okay, any more testimony? Last call.
No notes of mine on there. I don't see any. Okay. We're going to hand out some copies of the complete appraisal. You'll see there's nothing secret in it. It talks about an extraordinary assumption. I've forgotten what it is because it's not terribly extraordinary. I think what it is that that there's been no. He didn't review the environmental condition of the property. I think that's what it is, which means that the value is unlikely to go up from this. It would be more likely to come down because the environmental condition's a liability. So anyway, that's just so that it's understood by everybody. There's nothing, that extraordinary assumption is not a major issue. He's the presiding officer. Please direct it to
Yes,
him.
you may. Please come up and put it on the record, Agnes.
Agnes, can you make sure you get in the mic, please?
I hope you have something to do with the drafting of the document. And I saw you taking notes, and I am really concerned about this product's liability issue. And I don't think anyone else has brought it up. So if this goes through, I plead with you and your firm to protect the city on that because the liability on that is unlimited. It's horrible.
The liability is potentially there, but as a landowner, as you know, it's lower. And also, there will be in the final agreement requirements that whoever operates this property for whatever purpose operates it in complete compliance with the requirements of the Oregon Health Department and OLCC, who have probably the most stringent pesticide testing requirements in the country for marijuana products at this point. But again, there's no guarantee that catches everything. You're right. But yes, we're very aware of a lot of potential liabilities that can come up. And there's no guarantee. But again, as a lawyer, you know there's no guarantee you don't get sued by somebody who just comes in and says, I'm going to just roll the dice and try to sue somebody. Right?
Okay, we should just, last call. I want to make sure there's no other testimony desired. I don't see any takers. I think we can close it, Mayor.
Okay, this hearing's closed.